Hi, I'm Mike Ryan. You know, in all the videos that we've shared together here on our blog on turquoiseinamerica.com, we've covered a lot of different topics. And I'm sure there have been some that have been more your favorites than others. But I think there's one point that all of us share, and that is we love to see beautiful turquoise. And one of the most beautiful ways to see turquoise are turquoise beads. Now, turquoise beads from natural turquoise are becoming a real endangered species. So today we're going to take a look at some beads made from natural turquoise. Now, when we get into the area of jewelry making, I really get out of my circle of competence real quick. So when it came to beads, I gave a call to my friend Danny Lopacki, who is an expert on beads. When we're talking about beads, historically, we're talking about some of the earliest jewelry that was ever made. It really goes back to the Indus and Swat Valley, which would be in Pakistan and Afghanistan, where we find some of the earliest beads going back 6,000 years ago. And a lot of these beads were tapered beads, long tapered beads, maybe even 3 or 4 or 5 inches long. And they were what we call bicone. So they would taper, they would be wider in the center, and then they would taper at the end, almost like 2 cones put together. So we have a long history of bead making, and certainly in Turquoise in America, some of the earliest examples we see of examples from turquoise are beads, and these were made with a hand drill. And we see an example in this photo of a Native American who is using the hand drill to just drill a hole into some stone. A lot of this earliest stuff would be from a round blank. You'd have a round blank, and you just drill a hole in it so that you could then attach it and use it as a pendant or piece of jewelry. Also, once you drill the hole, now you can shape the turquoise. And the 2 real forms of forming turquoise beads are the Hishi cut, which is flat on both sides, are flat. And the other would be a rondelle, which basically has a rounded edge. And the Hishi cut is, it's easier to do by hand. So naturally, it's one of the first cuts we saw before there were equipment to assist the jeweler in cutting the turquoise beads. And it's quicker, so you can do it faster. And the third point that's real important is there's less waste with the Hishi cut than there is when you're rounding the edges in what is known as a rondelle. And waste becomes a major factor in the economics of beads, especially with natural turquoise. It's so hard to find natural turquoise now in good quality. And if you make beads from it, you very quickly get into the stratosphere in terms of cost. So almost all the turquoise beads you see now are either stabilized turquoise or imitation turquoise, either a block turquoise or even plastic. One of the areas that has the longest tradition among Native American jewelers were the beads from Santo Domingo, Pueblo. And they still make those there, beautiful, beautiful beads, but again, primarily from stabilized turquoise, just because of the basic economics. You start getting into natural turquoise, and with the labor and the waste and the cost of the rough material, you'll very quickly get into 5-figure dollar amounts for even for 2 or 3 strand necklace. So it's becoming a real endangered species. So if you really are interested in getting some natural turquoise beads, I would recommend that you do so. And even though you may think the price is very prohibitive, it's only going to get more expensive. So with that said, let's take a look at some turquoise beads. So one of the easiest way to make a turquoise bead is just drill a hole in the rough nugget and string it together in a strand of beads. And we're seeing here a wonderful example of very, very high-grade Bisbee turquoise. And this strand was made by the old Bisbee rockman himself, Bruce Mead. And we lost Bruce a few years ago, but his memory lives on, certainly in some examples of some beautiful turquoise, Bisbee turquoise like this. One of the things Bruce was known for was that he would do this strand. He would make the clasp by wrapping, I think he used to call it, a Navajo wrap, where you would just wrap this, again, adding quite a bit of labor to the cost of making the beads, rather than having some sort of metal clasp. So here we're seeing some natural Bisbee turquoise nuggets in a 2-strand necklace. Well, we're looking at another nugget necklace here of Bisbee turquoise. And this necklace is really in the, I would say, legendary category. I don't know anybody else but Bruce Mead who would have taken this many high-grade to gem-grade Bisbee turquoise nuggets and strung this together in this 3-strand nugget necklace that weighs over 2 pounds. And that was Bruce Mead. And I remember when Bruce brought this to Indian Market, and we were sitting at the restaurant in El Dorado, and he brought this thing out. And my eyes just about popped out of my head when I saw this. I bought this from him, and then he asked if he could wear it around Indian Market, because that is about the only place you could wear something like this. But a beautiful example of a Bisbee nugget necklace. This is the final Bruce Mead necklace we're going to see here. And while the others were nuggets that Bruce drilled himself and then strung together in the necklace, here's an example of a Bisbee turquoise that Mose McCormick cut for Bruce. And he cut the strands, and then Bruce went ahead and wrapped the end of it. But we see this 4-strand, beautiful 4-strand Bisbee turquoise cut by Mose McCormick. And it's in the rondelle cut, which is you take what is basically a Hishi cut and then round the edges into the rondelle. You do get more waste, but it certainly gives a softer, different look to the beads. So here we see Bisbee turquoise bead necklace. Here we see 2 nugget bead necklaces. The one on the bottom here, on the outside circle here, is Lone Mountain. Now, I don't know who put this together. We suspect that this came from the period of time when Menlis Winfield was mining at Lone Mountain, simply because of the size of the nuggets. Gene Waddell has mentioned when he saw this that they just haven't found nuggets of this size and this grade for some time at Lone Mountain. We also see here where you have a different clasp. Here you have the sterling silver clasp for the necklace. On the inside, we have some nugget necklace that was drilled and put together by Lee Loudon from Indian Mountain Turquoise. So 2 more examples of beautiful nugget bead necklaces. So finally, we get to see some cut bead necklaces. We'll start here with this wonderful Northern Lights turquoise cut in this very small, wonderful rondelle cut beads. And of course, the smaller the beads, the more waste you have, and the more expensive the necklace. And really something you just don't really see that much anymore, because with bead makers now, the tendency is to see bigger and bigger beads because you have less waste. And wastage in making beads can run anywhere from 50, with the highest grade, highest quality of material, maybe you could get by with 50%. More likely, it's 80% waste. So you can see why bead making gets expensive so quickly. This is an example, and this was made by Danny Lopacki. This necklace, the turquoise, I got from Danny Lopacki. It's number 8, and they were small nuggets of number 8. And I gave this to Peaky Wadsworth, and she made this wonderful 5-strand necklace of the number 8. And this is in a Hishi cut, and you can see the gold spacers that she's used here and the gold clasps. So a really wonderful example of Hishi cut turquoise by Peaky Wadsworth. Also, here's another Peaky creation here. She is such a wonderful bead maker, and it's a good example when she works in natural turquoise. If you can get one of her necklaces, I'd really recommend it. There's a Hishi cut of Sleeping Beauty turquoise. And just when you get the Sleeping Beauty with that gentle sky blue look and the way she's really masterfully put this Hishi cut together with these little tabs here at the bottom, it really is a very special treatment. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing some beautiful examples of turquoise beads.